How many of you have ever found yourself in a position where you are asking God to prove himself? I personally have never asked God to prove himself. I've always had some sort of belief that he existed, even just growing up in the church when I didn't understand the fullness of the gospel, right? But this man, he did ask God to prove himself. And watch what happened because God showed up and he proved himself in a mighty way, guys. This is amazing.
I said to God, A, I don't think you're real, but if I'm wrong and you have a plan for my life, prove it. Don't ever ask God, the creator of the universe, to prove to you that he's real unless you are ready for an encounter of the first kind. 2 weeks come and go. I didn't even remember praying that prayer. There was zero faith attached to my prayer. And I was in my office. I'd been at lunch. I walked in, said hello to Sharon, our receptionist, went through a set of doors, walked down a hall, turned right, walked into my office, shut my door. And as I was dialing a phone, checking on a shopping center we were building in Beckley, West Virginia, off behind me to my left, I heard two words. And when I heard them, instantaneously, I was transported back 14 years to when I was 7 years old, when I had asked Jesus to be Lord of my life. I audibly heard the voice of God, and the two words he spoke to me were, call mom. I didn't hesitate. I had a second line. I dialed 344-7443. The phone rang 6 times, 7 times. On the eighth ring, my mother answered the telephone, and when she said hello, instantly I knew something was terribly wrong. For in that instant in time, when I hear God say to me, call mom, and I did so, my mother was, watch this, attempting suicide. She was dying. Whether she's your best friend or your worst enemy, somebody you see 3 times a day or 3 times a year, when you're here and 25 minutes away on the other end of the telephone line, the lady who gave birth to you is literally dying. That, my friend, will change your life. It becomes, again, defining moment. What do you do when you don't know what to do? For me, I ran out of my office, ran past Sharon, jumped into my car, drove up Interstate 75 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I drove up this interstate and I talked to this God I did not know. And I didn't talk to him in any kind of like King James language. It was like, God, help. I can't save my mom, but you can. For the first time since I'd been 15 years old, I was being honest. I rounded the corner in their neighborhood, looked at their home from the outside in. Everything looked fine. It was safe, secure, maybe like where you live today. But from the inside out, my mom was dying. I've spoken with millions and millions of teenagers. And from the outside in, they appear to have it all together. But from the inside out, I wonder what's really going on. Do you really get the truth that your choices do create your circumstances? I beat on the door that day. My mom was barely alive as she came down some stairs. She fell into my arms. I picked her up. I carried her to her car. I drove her to Park Ridge Hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And as we drove, she looked over at me. She says, Dean, I can't be dying. And I said, Mom, hang on. You're not going to die, but you're going to have to choose to live. The most important word in that sentence is not live, my friend. It is choose, because you and I are given the choice every day to make the choices that create our circumstances. I get her to a hospital that day. A doctor threw me against the wall. They rushed her to the emergency room. My dad is there now. Family and friends are there. 45 minutes later, this doctor walks across the ER to my father. I get a little closer to my dad, thinking we're going to hear the time of death pronounced. But this doctor has the most perplexed look on his face, and he said, Mr. Sykes, there's no medical reason to tell you this at all. It is a, quote, miracle of God. Your wife's fine. You can go see her. I heard that doctor say miracle of God. I looked straight up to heaven. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're real? I took a walk that day. I could take you to the spot in Park Ridge Hospital where I leaned against the wall and I had an encounter with Jesus.
He said some really important things there, guys. But first and foremost, what I want to focus on is the way that God showed up in this man's life, right? What a powerful way to be shown that God is real. Other than him to tell you, call your mom while she's committing suicide, while she's dying. And you are able to drive your mother to the hospital while praying to God this whole time to show up and save your mother. And then he does. What a powerful way to answer a prayer. Now, I want to focus on what he said, guys, is you choose to change the things in your life, right? And as an addict that went through a recovery program, that was one of the staples, one of the pillars of that program. And I'll never forget it, even though it was in 2017, where they told me, you are in control of the changes in your choices. And this means that in my choices to choose drugs, I can control that. I can change the decision that I make and choose not to do drugs. And it's the same with our walk with Jesus, right? You are in control of accepting Jesus and what he did on the cross and then saving being saved from an eternal damnation, right? Or you can choose to continue to reject Jesus and ensure that you do go to hell, that you are separated from God's grace, that you don't get to feel the goodness of God's mercy, that you don't get to feel the love of Christ in your life. Because you can choose to sin, you can choose to walk in disobedience to the Lord, you can choose to not obey the commandments of the Lord, and that is your choice. I want to focus on something else that he said. He said that these teenagers that he's talking to, just like his mother, was inside that beautiful exterior of a house, but on the inside she was dying. And far too often, most people are dying on the inside, and they have it looking like they're all put together on the outside. They put on the image that they want you to see. They put on this face of, oh, I'm successful because I've got wealth, or I've got this dream job, or I got this hot wife, or this hot husband. I've got all these material possessions. I look like I have it all together, but on the inside, I'm empty because none of these things fulfill the way that Jesus will. And I wonder if far too often we're choosing these things that are really killing us instead of choosing Jesus, which gives us life. Jesus fills us abundantly. Jesus is the one that's the healer. He's the one that's the provider. He is the creator of all things. And if we're choosing to not be a child of God, if we're choosing to reject Jesus, no wonder we're dying on the inside. And I think it's so great that this guy was able to see God work in real time and go to that hospital and hear that doctor say that there's no way that she should be alive but by a miracle of God. And then this guy immediately gets the reality check that he asked God to prove him. How crazy is that? I wonder if any of you have ever done this. Have you ever asked God to show up and show out in a mighty way and do something that only he could do in the circumstance? I know that there's been times where I've seen, even in my wife's life, where she had a situation and she asked God, she called on the name of God, and she was like, God, there's no way that this can work out. There's no way that this can pull through except for by you. And lo and behold, God shows up and he does a miracle. And my wife gets the question, the outcome that she was praying for, all by the power of God. And that just shows how intentional God is with us. He is our Father. He is our Creator. He does have a purpose and a plan for our life, and he will navigate and move behind the scenes and pull strings and close doors and open doors, all to help us get to where he has a plan for us to be at. And I just think that's amazing to see how God moved in this guy's life. And I hope that in hearing this, that it does something in your faith, that it strengthens your walk, that it strengthens your resolve, that it helps you understand that God knows what he's doing, even when we don't understand what he's doing. That's going to do it for this one. Leave a like on this video. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, God bless.